Welcome to Lean In Leander. I'm your host, Andrew Nadine, and this is episode 12 of the podcast. It's also the fourth episode in the Vote in Leander series. And I want to take a brief moment here to thank those of you who have reached out to me, either through the social media channels or via email, just to say thank you and that you appreciate what I'm doing with the Vote in Leander series. I know it's important to a lot of people to understand who's running for election, and what I'm trying to do with this series is really focus in on who they are. These are people just like you and me, and hopefully we've been able to have some conversations that give you a little bit of insight as to what kind of personality they have and how they think and maybe where they're from, what their influences are. Keep in mind when I'm speaking with the candidates, for the most part, it's the very, very first time we've sat down and had a conversation. I haven't met them previously, for the most part. There's a few people that I've had some interaction with on city council and a few other areas in the city. But by and large, I don't know these people, and it's really nice to be able to sit down with them in a nice, safe space, if you will, and have a conversation. Just let them talk about themselves. And I do appreciate those of you who have said that you like what I'm doing. So I'm going to keep trying to do it. Most of the candidates have responded, and all of the candidates are invited. So I'll continue to make efforts to get them on the show, and hopefully it's something that'll help you with the process of deciding who to vote for. And that's the intent. So with that said, I had the opportunity to, over Zoom, have a conversation with Nacole Thompson. Now Nacole is working or she's running rather, I should say, for place 4 on the city council. And I was saying she's working because she's currently in Houston, Texas. That's the reason we got together over Zoom. And I think it's work related, but I think it's more specifically related to the fact that her son is playing basketball for Glenn High School, and they're in the state playoffs. So I believe they're playing, what's today? Tuesday? Yes, Tuesday. And hopefully the Grizzlies are able to pull it out and get on to what I think is the state finals or maybe semifinals. I'm not really 100% sure where they are in that progression, but I know that they're in the playoffs. So go Grizzlies. She also mentions the fact that she's there to support the Cedar Park girls, who are also in that playoff run. So both schools, much luck to both of you. And, I certainly hope that you all have a successful run to the championships. And with that said, we're going to go ahead and move to the conversation I had with Nacole. As I'm fond of saying, if you're watching the podcast, grab a drink. If you're listening to the podcast, turn it up a notch, and let's have a conversation with Nacole Thompson. I hope you enjoy this.
Okay.
All right. I'm here with Nacole Thompson, who is joining me from Houston, Texas. And yes. We're going to talk a little bit about Nacole today and get to know her, hopefully, for all of you who are fans of Lean in Leander and this Vote in Leander initiative. So, Nacole, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate you taking the time, especially when you're out of town. That was very nice of you.
Absolutely. And thank you for inviting me. I'm excited to be here, and congratulations on your show. It's doing very well, and you're giving out a lot of detailed information, and I appreciate it. So thank you for doing that for our community.
Tip of the hat to you, ma'am. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. It's definitely going somewhere. So we'll see where this takes us.
Somewhere positive. We're going to leave it at that. Somewhere positive. That's where it's going.
Thank you. I do appreciate that. Unsolicited. So this is the first time that Nacole and I have had a chance to meet each other and to speak. I'm somewhat familiar with her once she announced her candidacy. A couple of people that I know told me about her. So I just want to make everybody out in the audience, aware of the fact Nacole and I have never met before. We have no relationship. I think it's important to kind of set up the interviews that way because this is really a nonpartisan thing that I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to help people understand who the candidates are and get a little bit of their personality out there. So let's go back to the fact that you're in Houston. You were telling me you were there for some basketball games. Is that right?
Yes, I'm super excited. Leander ISD. All of my kids have attended school in Leander ISD, and Leander ISD has 2 basketball teams that have made it to state. this year. So we have Glenn High School. And so I'm here supporting the Grizzlies tonight. They are playing at the Delmar Center in Houston. And so our game starts at 5. Our team should almost be here, getting ready to do their shoot around at the Delmar Center. So I'm super excited. And also congrats to the Cedar Park girls. Their basketball team made it to state. So I'm excited for them as well. But that's why I'm here today.
So your son plays with Glenn, is that right?
Yes, my son. I have 2 students at Glenn. They both play basketball, but the varsity team is playing tonight for semi-state championship. So I guess it's considered the Final Four of their division for basketball. And whoever wins tonight will go on to the last 2 to get that championship. So
yeah, well,
we're excited for him.
Good luck to Glenn. Good luck to your
thank
son.
you.
Now, is he what year is he in school?
He's a senior. He's graduating.
He's a senior. Oh, so for him, this is super, super special.
This is very special.
Especially, you know, it's having been through that myself, and you know, my son has competed in soccer. That was his sport. And we had an opportunity to go to, you know, some semifinals and the playoffs and stuff like that. So it's always really, really exciting. It's just a shame that we're still kind of in this COVID pandemic thing. Are there going to be, are they allowing for family at least to attend?
They are actually, you know, the last, I want to say month or so of games, Leander ISD, and I don't know if it was just Leander in conjunction with UIL or if it was just UIL, but they did limit the number of guests you could have to 2 people per player. And you had to sign in on the list and all of that, but that is not what's going on now. This is such a large center. You buy tickets and they limit where you can sit in the stadium. So there are a limited number of tickets that are available for purchase so that you can go, but so that when everyone is there, they can social distance. So
very good.
We are all able to go and support. So that's been exciting. It's tough, you know, as a senior year with, you know, he ended his junior year going into lockdown in March of last year. And then, you know, pretty much been doing school online most of the year. And this is exciting to be able to play the sport you love and be able to make it this far, first time ever in school history. And it'd be your senior year and you'd be with your friends and just have something positive to end the year when we've had so many challenges. So
no, absolutely.
It's exciting.
Absolutely. No, I really, I'm super happy to hear that.
Yeah.
You know, my kids are all grown up now, so I don't necessarily have that direct connection to the more local sports activities at high schools and whatnot. And then, of course, everything's been so disrupted with COVID. It's really kind of hard to kind of, okay, well, what's going on and what's actually being played? And but I'm super excited for him. I know that this will be, regardless of the outcome,
absolutely
will be a memory that, you know, he'll cherish for the rest of his life. I think boys and girls, they tend to glob onto those really, really emotional moments as they move forward in life. So best of luck to him. I certainly congratulations on the campaign so far, and I certainly hope that they make it to the final. That would be great.
I hope too. We're praying for a win tonight. Yeah,
I'm sure a lot of people will be really excited about that. And I'm so happy that you and I'm assuming your immediate family are going to be able to attend and root him on.
We are, so that's exciting. We're excited to be able to
any face painting? Any face painting? Any? You gonna wear the disco outfit or anything? I don't know. How do you?
Let me tell you, my son would not be happy if I showed up a little too excited. So I'm gonna be a little more reserved.
All right.
I'm gonna be cheering and yelling, but
I think that's a common thing with kids for some reason, you know. And I think it's also a common thing for parents to like, well, how can we possibly embarrass them?
Yes. So you know, we were at the last game when they won, and all the parents wanted to do a tunnel. And if you remember, when your kids are little, like you do that, like when they're 5 or 6, little, you know, they were not happy, but we made them do it anyway. So it's exciting for us parents to be able to do the tunnel and bring back some memories. They were highly embarrassed, but we all made it there. We made it there.
No, that's cool. That's really, really cool. Yeah, I remember doing stuff like that myself. So definitely, like I said, there's a running theme there.
Exactly.
So let's talk a little bit about you, Nacole.
Absolutely.
And you are a Austin-born candidate. So you're one of the only people that can say, "Hey, I've been here my whole life," basically, right?
Yep. Yes, I was born in Austin, went to high school out here, and then left for college and grad school. And when we moved back, we ended up moving to Cedar Park to be near my parents at the time. We had small kids and, we just wanted to be near family and have more help. And then we decided to build a house out in Leander. And so we did that. So we've been out here a long time. But yes, I have seen the changes in Austin from when I was a kid. And it's interesting to watch everything just grow and change, even to see the changes in Cedar Park and Leander.
Yeah.
My goodness, when we moved to Cedar Park back in 2003, Lakeline Boulevard didn't go all the way past CC Mason and into Leander. Like, you were winding through neighborhoods to get to Lakeline Mall, and to see the growth of this whole corridor between Cedar Park and Leander is pretty amazing.
Yeah, no, I mean, I can, even just being here the last 3 years, I can attest to that. Just the changes that I've seen in 3 years.
Yeah.
And then, I spent a good part of my young adult life in Houston, and I visited Austin quite a bit. So the changes in Austin when we moved out here a little bit more permanently were just, it floored me. I mean, when you get a sense of it a little bit when you're traveling in, like we were living in Houston, we'd come to Austin for friends or whatever, and you'd see a little bit and you're like, wow, this is really growing. It's different. But when you live here and you can actually see it, then you really realize, wow, there's
things are changing.
Wholesale changes.
Yeah, things are changing.
Interesting.
But I'm glad to be out here in Leander. It's been a good fit for me and my family.
Good.
We wanted a slower pace and more of a neighborhood feel for schools. When I went to high school in Austin, I was bused across town. I went to a special liberal arts academy program at Johnston High School, which is going towards the airport off of Old 183 and Ed Bluestein. I was bused. We lived at McNeil and 183, and I was bused to school. So it took, 45 minutes, 50 minutes every day each way. And, it was just a long commute, and we wanted something a little different for our kids. So we're excited that we were able to be out in Leander and find home and community out here.
So how long in Leander proper? I mean, obviously Cedar Park, and when you moved out here, about when was that?
We've been in Leander since 2007.
Okay. So that's a good stretch.
Yeah. Yeah.
What is that? 14?
15,
14
yeah,
years,
somewhere around there.
Something like that? Yeah.
Don't make me add.
I know. I'm not afraid of math, but usually, as long as I'm kind of close, I'm one of those guys. Approximately.
Approximately, exactly. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So I know that you've been actively involved in the Leander community for many years. Absolutely. And so I wanted to talk to you a little bit about that. And have you expand a little bit on what some of your community involvement has been. You talk about a couple of things in your bios and whatnot, where you're talking about servant leadership and things of that nature.
Absolutely.
And I noted, I think it was on your LinkedIn profile, that for you, public speaking, team building, executive coaching, those types of things, you get a lot of people who are recommending you or kind of doing that LinkedIn. These are your skill sets type of thing.
Right.
So I wanted to kind of explore that a little bit with you and talk about that as it relates to what you've done in Leander. So help me understand that. Is it more community leadership? Is it more organizational leadership? What does that look like?
Well, let me go back some.
Okay.
I come from, my dad is a Southern Baptist minister. That is the background that I come from, was raised in church, spent a lot of time in church. And so my speaking and ability to connect with my audience really started back then, from teaching Sunday school, Bible school, going to vacation Bible school. Things that I continued to do when I went off to college is when I went to Baylor University, I worked with the YMCA there and taught cheerleading to girls in the community. And then I started my own community choir in Austin. And so I had students from 12 years old all the way up to 18. I was 19 years old at the time, 12 to 18, that would come in. They sometimes were from underserved communities, sometimes from disenfranchised communities. And we just wanted to bring them together and give them an activity they could do that would uplift themselves, uplift their community. And then we all went out together and did feeding the homeless. We all went out together to pick up trash on the side of the road. So it wasn't just singing in the choir. but it
Mm-hmm.
was a way to give these kids an opportunity to find connection in their community. So that was something that was always important to me. And so really being able to connect and wanting to serve and that servant leadership I talk about, those
Mm-hmm.
things were instilled in me from when I was a child. And those are things that started many, many moons ago for me and things that I continue with my family now. So we often go out at Thanksgiving and prepare turkeys and give out food to the homeless. We've worked with the Church of Nazarene over here in Leander and passed out meals every year. My dad also pastored a church in Cedar Park. And so we would do various events with them in Cedar Park. I've also worked with Kids Helping Kids of Texas. For about 4 or 5 years, we put collection bins in all of the schools in Leander ISD. And teachers, students alike, anybody in the community could go in the school, drop their new coat in the bin, and then we distribute those coats in November every year. So I've
Nice.
continued to work with that organization, although when you know, leadership changed in Leander ISD, we kind of changed the way that we pick up coats and distribute coats. So we don't do them in the schools now, but we still collect all those coats and still give them out every year. So I'm heavily involved in that organization. I always stay busy, try to keep our kids busy and help them understand it's not just about you and your experience and what's going on in your life, but there's a whole big world out here, much
Mm-hmm.
bigger than you. And there are people with different experiences. And the way to really understand and connect with that is to go out and serve, see what somebody else is going through. Our
Walk a mile
kids
in their shoes, so to speak.
walk a mile in their shoes. And you can't do that necessarily, behind the computer or playing a video game. That's all well and fine. Great ways to spend your free time if you have some. But it's really important to actually get out there with your hands and work and serve other people that need it.
Oh, those are great lessons. Those are great
Yeah,
lessons. I'm while maybe not to the degree, it sounds like maybe your involvement in the community and your volunteerism goes a little bit further than my own per se. But you echo some of the same sentiments, and I think that's something that anybody,
absolutely.
regardless of what your background, can understand. Um,
Well, but don't diminish what you're doing. Just because it's
oh,
not what
hey,
I'm
if it's not
doing
about me,
doesn't mean that it's not important. But I don't want people to think that you have to be all encompassing
right?
in your work for it to matter. You
Right.
just
No,
need
no,
to
no.
start
Absolutely.
somewhere,
Absolutely.
you
You
know?
kind of stole my point from me there, Nacole, but
Oh,
that's
I'm
okay. I'll
sorry.
let you have it. That was the point I was trying to drive to, is that it doesn't matter. Again, I think there's a unifying theme there that
Hmm.
people can relate to, that in their own lives, they do certain things. I mean, it may be a
Hmm.
small community. It could be as simple as taking your neighbor some bottled water
Absolutely.
during the last, the snowpocalypse, as they're calling it, that type
Absolutely.
of thing. That is volunteerism, that is service, and I
Right.
think that everybody can relate to that. And so,
Absolutely.
some people like yourselves choose to take it a little bit further and take it to another
Yeah,
level, which kind of brings me to a point where I'll ask you, why are
sure.
you running? What's the impetus for you to run for city council?
Sure. When I think about all the changes that I've seen in Austin and Cedar Park, and especially Leander, I think about how our community is changing and we're growing and diversifying. And it's important to have representation on the council from a different point of view, have somebody who's had different experiences that can share, and really have somebody that is excited and determined to listen to the people in the community and then do what needs to be done to make sure we're managing our city's finances, managing our city's infrastructure, making sure we're doing all those things correctly. I think I have a unique skill set because my experience is unique to me. And it's an opportunity for me to serve people in the community. And that's what I'm excited to do. I haven't seen a candidate like myself running for Leander City Council. And I think it's a great opportunity. We just have so much change going on.
Hmm.
We need somebody that is familiar with the city, um, to come in and just help navigate through that process. So I'm excited to be the one to do it. And that's why I wanted to step up. I knew I had a unique set of talents and of gifts that I could contribute back to the city. And it was my time to do it. I have more time available to me to focus on giving back in this way. I've spent, like, my bio says, over 15 years in finance and banking. So taking that experience and bringing the management experience and the finance experience to the city and what we have to do to manage, the resources of the city well, I think those are skill sets that are going to help our city move forward in a positive way, and an effective way, and kind of hopefully eliminate some of the challenges that we've had in the past.
So when and I have been asking all the candidates this, so I want to try to be equal as far as the types of questioning that I'm asking everybody.
Sure.
And I know that, and I talk about it a lot in this series. The positions themselves are volunteer positions. You're not getting paid to be on city council. There's not a financial incentive from that perspective. But it is something that I know is a time challenge. It takes a lot of time. While the council only meets twice a month, I believe it is, they're constantly having to deal with it. I mean, all you need to do is look at the agendas that are on any particular week, and there's a minimum of 6-8 items to look over. So you have to spend a lot of time. I think it would seem to me that if you're a council member, you would spend time to understand the topics themselves and try to plug them into.
One would hope,
the big view,
you would do
right?
That. Yeah.
So that's why, again, here, from a work perspective, you mentioned that you have a little bit more time. So what do you do? What's your job? What do you do day to day?
Well, one way that I plan to spend my time, one of my very best skills is the ability to research and to go through documents. I take a lot of time to try to find the information that is publicly available so that I can research, so I can understand a topic, look at all the points of view that might be coming in before I make a comment on it or before I make a stand on it. Although I might have an initial reaction or opinion about something, I always want to make sure that my opinion is based on fact and not just based on what I overheard someone say. So having that ability and that desire to research the truth and find the information that's out there is important. And that's something that it's important to me. So I do work from home most of the time. I don't go into my office, although my office for my day job, if you will, is in Leander. And so my job has been very flexible. I don't envision having a problem with that. I do volunteer with several organizations where I sit on the board. And when I win my seat, then I will, of course, step back from some of those so that the council can have my full attention. So that's how I plan to spend my time, making sure that I'm focused. I ran for this office. Should I win this office, I need to devote all the time that it needs to be successful in that office.
So you mentioned small business development in your bio as well.
Yes.
And I'm assuming that's part of your work today. Would that be correct?
Not today, but it's part of the work that I have done in the past. Yes.
Okay. So do you own your own business now? Is that what
I do? I have a small consulting business that I own in Cedar Park. In Cedar Park, I'm sorry, in Leander. It's home based now. Yeah.
Okay.
Due to COVID, we had to go home base. So,
yeah. So the consulting business, it focuses on small business development, or is it somewhere else? I just kind of want to clarify that.
Sure. In my mind. It focuses on small business development. We had 4 different areas that we focused on. The main part of the business was shut down due to COVID. Right. So we were doing transportation for students. Going to private schools and charter schools, and we did that for 5 or 6 years. Gotcha. But when COVID happened and schools closed, that kind of eliminated how we're able to operate that part of the business. Right. So now we focus more on the consulting part until, things change and we can go back to doing what we did before and how we serviced families in our community and got their children to school. So.
Okay. No, excellent. Again, it's helpful to the audience to understand, what you're dealing with on a day-to-day basis, like, how you're juggling the balls, because everybody's juggling some balls somewhere,
Yeah, we all are. That's right.
Excellent. Okay. So you have done some work with Kids Helping Kids of Texas.
Yes.
Which, again, we've kind of obviously touched a little bit on some of your volunteer work, but the Kids Helping Kids was one that I was particularly interested in.
Sure.
Finding out what you did there and how that organization works, because I think it's an important thing to kind of highlight.
So Kids Helping Kids of Texas is an organization set up to help give coats, shoes, gloves, and sometimes other food and necessities to students that are in homes where they don't have it, where they need it. The difference between Kids Helping Kids of Texas with their coat collection and distribution, maybe compared to some of the other coat and distribution programs that are out there in Central Texas and Austin, is that we don't necessarily check income. If you come, you bring your report card, you're a student in the district, you say you have a need, we take your word for it and make sure we get you the coat, the shoes, the gloves, whatever it is you need during the winter time. So the focus has always been around giving coats so that kids wouldn't be cold. And it started because one student came to the chairman and said, hey, there are kids in my school who are cold. They're coming to school in shorts, and not because they choose to, because that's all they have. They don't have coats and it's cold. Is there something we can do? So that's how the idea started, I believe, almost 10 years ago. So I've been working with Kids Helping Kids for the last 5 or 6 years. And I'm the treasurer for the executive board, and that's the role that I play. But I'm also a part of the distribution day setup, marketing the event out in the community and making sure we go out and collect the coats.
So you also have an MBA, I know.
Yes.
And that looks like that was more business management. So that's probably a little bit more towards the financial stuff that you've done in the past. Yes. Would that be a fair assessment?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So one of the things that you talk about is in your bio, you talk about some diversification of industry, small business sector, and then, the tax base of the city. So given your financial experience and what you've done in that particular realm, where do you see that applying in your role as, were you to be elected? How do you see that applying, that skill set applying to your position on the city council? Specifically that.
What I intend and what I would hope would happen is that we would have some kind of commission or group that would come together. And there may already be one that I'm not privy to that information behind doors that's already working, but that we could come in and really have a targeted focus on how to drive more medium-sized businesses and large-sized businesses to Leander so we can better diversify our tax base and relieve some of our homeowners and that tax burden that's out here on us in the city. So that would be my hope, is to use that financial background and what it takes to develop a business and what it takes to grow a business and what it takes to attract some of those medium-sized and large-sized businesses to a smaller community like Leander. What are we going to have to do as a city to bring those businesses out here and to keep them? Because what my concern is that we live in Leander, but we drive out to work and we are spending dollars elsewhere. We need to be able to have employers that are here. We can go to work here. We can spend our tax money here. We can do all our grocery shopping, everything here, and not have to give part of that revenue to another city somewhere else. And so we really have got to focus on bringing all the revenue we can back to the city and making it convenient. Everybody wants convenience. Everybody wants a school down the street. Everybody wants their grocery store down the street, major shopping down the street. How great is it to have your employer down the street? You don't even have to go far if it is that you have to leave your house and go to work. That's pretty amazing. So that would be my focus and how I would use my financial background when it comes to working with the city and trying to attract medium-sized businesses to come in. I also want to keep small business, of course. That's the bedrock of our community. But attracting some more medium-sized businesses that have even more employment opportunities for the people living in the city is really important.
No, I think you hit on a couple of notes there that I kind of want to explore a little bit with you. So one of the things that I've brought up before in previous episodes is the diversification of the tax base. We talked a little bit about that when I met with Bridget at the chamber, and we touched on in that episode, we touched on the fact that the pandemic actually increased the tax revenue in the city of Leander, mostly due to the fact that people, obviously, they couldn't go anywhere.
So they're at home spending more money. Yeah.
And I think, again, I've had some additional conversations there. And so we've been able to talk about, well, there's a couple of drivers there. HEB would obviously be one of them. The Lowe's here in Leander would obviously be one of those. And then the internet tax revenues. I think that stays a little bit more locally. So that type of Amazon purchase and that kind of stuff obviously
Right.
helps us out. But I think you do hit on an important note, and it's something that I've talked about and have asked about myself. Is we're somewhat still in a growth process where I think what they call it is more of like a bedroom community. Like our tax base is a bedroom tax base,
Right.
for lack of better terms.
Right.
So the homeowners of Leander are carrying a heavier burden than they would otherwise were there more diversification of the tax base. And I recently interviewed Alex Tyneburn, who's leading the Northline project, which is obviously online, and they're starting the building and they're getting that going. And that's going to be a dense urban center where obviously the incremental tax growth there is obviously compressed, but it's substantial. And he talked about, in our interview, he talked about the fact that they've already pivoted a little bit, and they're going to do more Class A office space in that development than what they had initially planned to do. So I think that speaks a little bit to what you're talking about, is just, bringing in businesses and employers who can, better support a larger employment pool, or a larger pool of employees, which will be critical to the growth of Leander, because I think it's fair to say, and you can disagree with this if you like, but I think it's fair to say if we're projecting 150, 180, 200,000 people in this community over the next, some odd 10 plus years, we can't all not work here.
Right. Exactly.
there has to be some employers here.
We've got to find a way to attract more businesses here that have the ability to employ more people. And not even just that, when you think about our students, they're leaving when they graduate and going off to college. We have a beautiful ACC campus right here. Imagine if we had more employment opportunities for them right here in the city, where they didn't necessarily have to leave to go start their careers. If we had more, just more opportunity, educational opportunities for people to go to school to be a plumber or electrician or whatever that was located right here. If we had those educational opportunities right here in Leander, that would then change into jobs right here in the city. That would be huge for us.
With that in mind, how do you see the city helping with that? I mean, what would you see the city's role to be? And I know we're getting a little political here, but let's go down this road a little bit.
For me, how I see it is, we as a city need to have a dynamic partnership with the school district. And having that partnership with the school district, there are all kinds of ways we could support a high school program that allows the student. I know they have, I believe it's called Cool Kids or something to that extent, where they spend a week shadowing a business owner locally. My kids participated in it at Rouse when my daughter was at Rouse High School. But we can take that a step further. I mean, as a city, we could support a whole program where there was actually an internship through the city, where they worked with the accountants in the city, or with the city attorneys, or with the engineering department, or whatever department, we could set it up with, so that they could get some real hands-on experience and then turn that around into a career, or at least an option for a career after high school. Our kids can't dream big if they don't know what to dream, if they don't know what the options are out there. And we want to keep all of that talent local if we can, because it's just going to help our city grow even more, and give people more of a home feel, like they have investment in the city. They have investment in their leadership. They know that their leaders are out here trying to improve the lives of not just the adults that are here, but of the students that are coming up and the children that are coming up in the community, which is hugely important to me.
Yeah, no, I think that's a very excellent point, and those are very interesting ideas. I know that in speaking with a few of the candidates already, and I've had an opportunity, and hopefully we'll continue to have an opportunity to speak with all of them, because I think it's what I'm trying to provide here is, again, a little bit of some insight and filling out or humanizing the people that are running, because there's so much information out there, and campaigns become sound bites, and people run off with certain ideas and they do what they do, and that's fine. You're entitled to that. But for me personally, what I want to try to achieve with this series, and then with the continued involvement that I want to have in our local elections is to inform the population, to educate people as to who the candidates are. And like, again, this here is just like you and me sitting around having a chat, you know, that's important. I think that's important. And because not everybody can sit around with you, Nacole, and have a chat. I mean, that would just take way too long.
Yeah.
And you only have like 7 weeks left or whatever it is.
Yes.
It's not that wouldn't work. It's not practical. But this, I think, becomes a little bit of an extension of that. And so what I try to do is I try to approach this like from Johnny, you know, Joe average guy or whatever, however you want to put it, and have some of these conversation points, because this feels like the type of conversation that you and I would sit down and just have if we were meeting each other.
Absolutely.
So those are really interesting ideas, and I think it's unique. But I do like the fact, and I want to point out, I do like the fact, because I've spoken with, again, a few of the candidates, not everybody, but a few of the candidates, and there seems to be this cognizance of that, you know, there's a longer view here, there's a longer play, and I'm encouraged by that. You know, none of these issues are easy.
No.
You know, no one can come in and wave a magic wand and just make everything okay. You know, maybe the Scarlet Witch, you know, maybe Wanda Maximoff can come in and, like, you know, a quick hex. But that's probably not going to happen.
Probably not.
It might in the multiverse. If the multiverse is out there, you know, maybe somewhere else that's already happened. Lake line's 4 lanes all the way down. Who knows? Right.
Exactly.
But with that not obviously being our reality, I think it's really good, and I'm encouraged, like I said, and I appreciate the fact that you're sharing that here today, just letting people know, hey, this is how I'm thinking, because I think that's important for people to understand, you know, what goes into some of that thought and some of that background. So as far as local business is concerned, because I try to ask this question of all the candidates, you don't have to name any businesses along those lines. And you've given a little bit of a hint, as you know, from a community involvement, you obviously are involved in the community. But supporting local small businesses is something I think is super, super important. This is not a gotcha question, okay? But it's you spend your money locally, right?
I do. Yeah.
So are there any businesses or areas like that you in particular might say, hey, you know, this is a good small business here. These people are doing some nice things in our community. Is there anybody you might want to shout out to?
Well, I spend a lot of money at Sharks Burgers. I'm telling you, it's kind of outrageous.
Okay.
I mean,
is Sharks Burger out of necessity just because you've got a busy life and it's easy to go?
No, it's because it's delicious. What?
I'm sure he'll be very happy to hear that.
Yeah, you should not be probably eating burgers twice a week, but you know, whatever. Like, I'm trying to make it work. But you know.
Well, let me ask you this, because I think it's a fair question to ask. And again, if you feel that I'm overstepping my bounds, by all means, tell me. That's fine. But Black-owned businesses in Leander, you know, who do you support there? I mean, I know there's bound to be more than I'm aware of.
Right. So right next to my home at the corner of Baghdad and 2243, there's a lovely lady, and I wasn't prepared for this question, so I can't think of the name of her business right now.
That's the point. You're not supposed to be prepared.
But she owns a massage company, and she is amazing. And I'll have to think of the name and send it to you. But she is a Black-owned business, female-owned business, really using massage therapy as a way to connect with people spiritually, and really work out some of the issues they may have going on there. She is amazing. Her hands are amazing. She, you know, it's a quiet and relaxing environment, but just the fact that she takes the time to really connect with you in your spirit and what's going on with you emotionally is really important. And I appreciate that of her. Of course, you know, because our family is big into basketball. You know, we've participated with the Pack over in Leander. Quite a bit. My husband is going to be a coach there this year, and my boys have played there and done training there, and you know, my daughter has played there as well. So yeah, we participate with all kinds of activities and businesses that are out there. And they may not all be necessarily Black owned, but that support diversity and hire people that are from all kinds of backgrounds. And we support those businesses as well.
I think there's probably a greater, there's a larger amount of diversity in the city of Leander than I think a lot of people necessarily see right away or talk about right away.
Right.
But I don't think that it necessarily means that Leander is a city that is diversity centric, if you will.
No. Right.
I know that you're involved with some diversity and inclusion efforts in the city. I do want to touch on that a little bit. Again, this is not meant to be a divisive topic. I just want to, let you have an opportunity to talk a little bit about that. Obviously, as a Black woman, you're diverse just by the very nature of your presence. You bring diversity. Okay, so I don't think it's unfair, but it's a question that I think a Black woman, a Black professional woman specifically, would be a little bit more attuned to. So,
absolutely.
Which is the reason that I bring it up. I mean, I'm an immigrant son. I'm a first generation American. I'm Hispanic. I'm Mexican American. But if you look at me, you wouldn't know that. Okay. And that's the difference here. I think that's that's a difference. Let me put it that way. So if you would, a couple of minutes just talking about that, like your experience in Leander and how you think Leander can maybe do a little better job of being a more diverse and inclusive community.
My family has been out here a long time, and we have seen the changes in our neighborhoods. We've seen the changes in our kids' schools from when my daughter started, elementary, being the only a little brown girl in her class until probably third or fourth grade. Never having a teacher that looked like her. And not that it was a problem, it wasn't, but it changes how you view things that are going on. It makes a difference. And for me as a Black woman, it's just important to represent that there are all kinds of people out here. And at the end of the day, we have the same goals. I want to raise my kids in a safe community. I want to have clean water available to me, just like anybody else. I want to have convenience of getting to the grocery store and buying healthy food for my family when I need to do that. I want to be able to have a job where I'm able to financially support my children, sending them off to college, my retirement goals. All of those goals are the same, regardless of whether you're Black, brown, green, from this state, from another state, from this country, from another country. Really, the goals at the core of it are the same. Now, my experience may be different. And it has been. I will say, I've just things that other people maybe take for granted that I don't necessarily get to take for granted. For example, I remember my daughter being young and somebody making a comment about her hair in school and me having to explain to her, you're beautiful how you are. And that's how God created you. And there's nothing wrong that even though there are 20 other people that look completely different than you, that doesn't mean that somehow something is wrong with you. And so having those kinds of conversations, I will tell you, we hosted at my home not too long ago, an event that brought fathers and sons to our house. We had a little over 40 people at the house, and they were talking about how to handle if you get pulled over, what the things you should do, how to show respect, what you should say. And it was amazing. It was amazing to see those gentlemen also teaching their sons how to tie a tie, and other gentlemen teaching other gentlemen who hadn't learned that, how to tie a tie. So it was it was amazing to see that. So taking the opportunity to work with people that have a different experience is important to me, because I understand that. I understand that I have conversations with my kids about how they're viewed in the world that other people may not even think about, may not be something they even have to consider, but I do, because I don't get to hide this. When you see me, this is what you see. Whatever your preconceived notions are, whatever your past experience is, whatever you've heard from someone or saw on TV or whatever, that may all come into play just upon you seeing this. And so that's why I appreciate your format, of me getting to share more about myself
Sure.
so that people can actually have an understanding of who I am
Right.
before you just see this and make a judgment. And not
Right.
that everybody does that, and that's not what I'm saying, but I can't hide who I
Right.
am. And if you already have something that has happened to you or an experience, I don't know how I might be perceived by others. So I appreciate this format and this forum to be able to talk about that. But yeah,
Yeah.
you're right. Just by the fact that I am a Black woman who's well educated, who's married, who has children, who's raised a family here, I have a child in college. I mean, my experiences is diverse and it is unique. And I'm happy to share those experiences. But even with all that diversity and even with all that uniqueness, at the core of who I am, I want the same things everybody else wants for their family. I want my kids to be safe. I want to be able to retire and enjoy my retirement. I want to have opportunities to have good business opportunities and good job opportunities. I want health care so that I can continue to take care of myself and my family. I want to be able to shop and enjoy, hanging out. I want to be able to support our first responders. I want to be able to, be able to depend on them, but them to know as a community member, they can depend on me to support them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, though we all want the same thing in my viewpoint.
I think it's important to make that point. I
Yeah.
think every candidate has made a similar point so far.
Hmm.
But again, there's more that we share in this community
Absolutely.
than there is that we don't share. And I
Yeah.
think, again, I appreciate you, again, just appreciating the format, because that's the
Yes.
intent of what I'm trying to accomplish here, is just
Right.
is really to humanize the people who are running, because again, a bottom line is this is a volunteer position, and it's
Absolutely.
something that it's going to take a lot of your time away from the things that you normally would maybe want to do. So you're coming to this from a perspective of, I want to give of my time. And I think it's important. The people who don't do that, the people who run, or I don't want to say run. I'm not. That's not what I meant to say. The people who don't run or who don't get involved and then turn around and
Hmm.
say, "Well, I don't like this."
Right.
Well, I'm not saying that you're not helping with the situation, but get involved. Get involved.
Hmm.
Become part of become part of any civic organization. Do
Right.
something to help your community, and I think it's super, super important to highlight it in that way. So I'm gonna take a minute here, self promotion, because
Okay.
that comes down to the election. That comes down to
Right.
getting to the polls, placing your vote. And if you haven't done it already, folks, again, I'm gonna harp on this. Everybody gets it.
Yes.
Voteinleander.com. If you haven't registered to vote, you can register to vote there. If you need
Awesome.
information on the voting places, or whether or not you are registered currently, all that type of information is there on voteinleander.com. And I know it's important to get the vote out for every candidate. This is not specific to a single candidate. This is for everybody. The more
Absolutely.
people who vote for Nacole are the people who are expressing their desire to have someone like Nacole on the city council. Same holds true for every other candidate who might be running. So,
Absolutely.
but you can't vote if you're not registered.
That's right.
That's the bottom line. And, if you're new to the city, again, get involved. And the easiest way to do it is to vote in the election in May. So enough about
Absolutely.
that. I'm not going to harp on that anymore. Believe me, I harp on that quite a bit. So
Well,
people are
it's
going to get
good.
sick of
I
me
mean,
talking about it.
it's interesting that we can have a city, over 60,000 people and have, less than 2,500 people
Yeah, no,
participate
it's
in a local election.
3.5%. It's
Yeah. And
3.5%, which is
and when you
ridiculous.
do that, like you said, you may see some things that need to be changed or that you don't agree with. And the way to do that is to come out and vote and really
Hmm.
support candidates that are out here running that espouse, concerns for the issues that are concerning to you.
Yeah.
And, people just have to exercise that right. And we want as many people registered to vote so that they can actually vote and make a difference.
Yep.
I have shared with my children and with people that know me over and over and over again. I appreciate a federal election. I appreciate the presidential election. That is all well and fine. But when you have a pothole outside of your neighborhood. You are not writing the president to ask him, what are we doing about this pothole?
Yeah.
It's important. Local politics matter.
Yep.
Being involved in your local community matters. And when you have issues like that, we need a light outside of our neighborhood. Our kids can't cross the street safely.
Yep.
That's a local issue. And so really, it is important who is running for city council, making sure that you vote in that election for council members and for mayor, because it matters. It matters to how you live your everyday life in ways that you may not imagine until it comes up.
Absolutely.
And then you realize.
Again, I say that same thing. I'm like, look, the choice that you make today, the choice that you make in May will affect you in 2026, in 2028. These are long-term processes. And so it's super important to make sure that you have the type of representation and representative that you want. And these are at-large bids.
They are.
So, we're talking about the whole city of Leander.
The whole
it's not
city.
A specific little alcove or a district, if you will. We may eventually get to that. Who knows? The city gets big enough. Maybe it makes more sense to go that direction. But as of right now, all positions are at large. I like to tell people that everybody's running for mayor. There's just two people who said that I want to be called mayor. That's really the only difference. Everything else is the same. So, well, on that note, I appreciate your time here today because I know that you're traveling.
Thank you.
And you've got the basketball games coming up.
Yes.
Again, best of luck to your son. I certainly hope that they're able to pull that one out.
I hope they are too. I'm praying for them.
Continued good luck to you in the campaign.
Thank you.
I wish you the very, very best, and I certainly hope for your success. I have for every other candidate, the same thing. Just good luck.
I appreciate that.
I appreciate you taking the step of getting involved to that degree because I know that's a hard decision and it takes a lot of time. And I appreciate everybody who's done that and hopefully, highlighted some of their personality in these episodes. So,
well, thank you again for inviting me and for giving me an opportunity to talk about myself, which I don't do often. I try not to do. It's uncomfortable, but I appreciate the opportunity just to share my story with people who may not know me or my background or why I decided to run or, how my upbringing, has really shaped who I am and what kind of council member I'll be. So I appreciate you taking the time to do that.
No, I'm happy to do that, and I appreciate your participation. So,
yes, sir.
With that, we're going to go ahead and wrap up this episode of Lee and Leander. I'll see y'all next time.
Thank you.